Welcome to another exciting edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast with Tom, Charlie, and Tem. Three Sunday League footballers united through a love of Chelsea Football Club for our sins. And what another week, another loss. It's just Groundhog Day. I feel like we're just rinse, repeat. 5 losses in a row now for Frank Lampard since returning to the club, or merely 2 of them against Real Madrid, but expected better. Boys, let's dive straight into it. Another loss, this time at Brentford. And I feel like it was just one of those games where even from the starting lineup, it's one of the few times, Tem, when we looked at it, it was like, well, what is this starting lineup? I don't understand it. It looks like we're doing another 3-6-1 with playing the exact same way that we're supposed to be playing against Real Madrid, and it's produced the exact same result, a 2-0 loss.
Yeah, well, I think you summed it up perfectly there. Looking before the game, we all thought we'd see a few more maybe attackers or players who haven't played recently get a bit more of a chance. But It looked like it was almost the same team that played against Real Madrid, unless I'm mistaken, maybe 1 or 2 changes.
But James dropped out for the injury, yeah, I think.
Yeah, it was mainly the same team, bar Azpilicueta, like you said. And it was more of the same thing where we didn't look like we knew what we were doing. I don't know if you guys want to add up upon that.
I think from my perspective, when I was looking at Charlie, we'll come to you in a second, but when I looked at the game, when I looked at the lineup, I thought it just didn't mirror what I expected. I thought we would have seen maybe potentially Kante go into a position that he's better suited to in the middle of the park, with potentially Kovacic coming out of the starting lineup and then having some more wingers, maybe Mudryk or Mbuemo coming into the squad. I didn't understand it, and you saw from the game it didn't work in the first 45 minutes at all. Admittedly, Brentford did go ahead. Luckily, I say luckily, like it's, we were creating chances again. It's just typical Chelsea, final third play. What was the game that we were watching? There was a game that I was watching during the week, and I noticed that's the difference between Chelsea and the other teams is on the back line. I think there was 5 people in a row along the back line, all attackers, whereas Chelsea, they're all looking to drop deep, and I think that's a massive issue that needs to be addressed at the end of the season, whoever takes over. But no, it wasn't good. I think, Lampard made the changes at half time. I think he switched to a 4-3-3, brought Aubameyang on and Mudryk. We saw some kind of positivity in the first 15 minutes, Charlie. Is that something that you saw? Do you echo that? Or do you think it's no? I believe your common word is rubbish, just rubbish. And then 5 minutes after every game.
It's the same every week, isn't it? I mean, there's no different. We don't lose badly every week, do we? I can't remember, like Tottenham lost 6-1 last week. We don't do that sort of thing. We don't lose badly, but we just lose every week. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We lose 1-0, 2-0, and what does that say? We can't put the ball in the back of the net. Simple as that. Yeah. We're quite good defensively. We're not too bad. Aubameyang come on. And I thought he made a really good impact on the game. Why we've got strikers in this squad, and why are they not playing? Why is he not playing them? And why is Gallagher playing every week? And why is it the consistent team every single week that doesn't work? Right, it's never worked, and why do they keep playing them? That's got to be addressed.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like when Aubameyang came on, like I think I've said it before. Aubameyang, I don't think he's going to be hit the next season, and I completely understand managers' reluctance to kind of play Aubameyang if he's not going to be part of plans. But we don't have a manager that's been assigned for next season anyway, so you may as well just play the players that we have. Play the Fofanas, play the Aubameyang. And when he came on, we saw a different dynamic, didn't we? We saw Aubameyang. I don't think he dropped into the number 10 position once. I think he might have briefly come in, touched the ball and passed it back out, was turned, and then he looked great and break into space. He had the opportunities. I think he created a couple of chances again, probably put it down to match fitness or match sharpness, whatever it be, not able to put the ball in the net. I think I'd like to see Aubameyang start a game, and I didn't think I'd actually say that to myself 3 months ago. I think at this point, well, what's the point in playing him? But I don't know, Tem, do you think it might be an opportunity tomorrow in the game against Arsenal for Aubameyang? Admittedly, the last game he played against Arsenal didn't quite go to plan for him.
Well, if you bring up Dale's comment, I think it kind of sums up where we're at right now. You know, Aubameyang's had the most shots on target for any Chelsea player in the last previous 5 games. I thought his movement was okay. I saw a couple of balls that Enzo tried to play to him. Unfortunate that they couldn't link up that well. But again, he actually showed a bit of something that we're missing in a striker. He took the defender on and put a shot on target, which again we haven't seen from many players this season a lot. I think Arsenal may be a bit of a tough game for him to come in and show what he's about, but you never know with Lampard. He confuses us with every lineup he comes up with, so who knows?
It's another situation, Charlie. I think with Lampard that we're experiencing is just we don't really know a consistent team, and admittedly, the one consistent thing was playing two players out of position. For the life of me, I can't understand how Gallagher, like yourself, gets in every single week. Admittedly, he puts the press on, and I think that's why he's put on. Is he presses into those against the back line, against the fullbacks and the opposition. But then when you do get the ball to him, there's no kind of final, daisy cutting pass through to somebody running onto it because there's nobody there to run onto it. It's crazy. I mean, let's get into what we really need to speak about here. Pochettino. We had this conversation a week ago. We're thinking it heavily favoured that Pochettino is going to come in. I think 2 weeks ago, I think it was Nagelsmann that was going to come in. Then last week it was Pochettino. Still not been announced. Charlie, you had some reservations about Pochettino. I wonder if you'd be able to share that with people. You messaged in the WhatsApp group earlier today.
Well, I think he's got reservations himself, hasn't he? Clearly. I mean, how long has it taken this guy to sign put his signature on a dotted line? It just doesn't make sense. They've flown him out to LA. They've done all this stuff for him, and yet he doesn't sign on the dotted line. There's clearly, and all these people, and you said it earlier. You were, oh yeah. I reckon he's, it's just a matter. I'm sorry, there is something there. There is something going on there. There's no way that if he was that keen about the job, he would have signed by now. So why is it that he's sitting in LA and Bowley's taking him out for a meal or whatever else, and he's not signed the contract? There's got to be something in that. And I personally think it's nothing to do with money, because we all know that Bowley's got more money than sense, right? We all know that. I think it's something to do with, this dressing room stuff, this probably signings, all this sort of stuff. There's more to it. It's not something to do with money, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, Tim, I don't know if you do. I think you might agree with myself, as I don't think it's to do with money either. I think it's due to the timing. I think I was hearing it on the Straight Out of Cobham podcast, and what they were talking about is like it's not the cup isn't half empty. It's just the cup doesn't exist. It's that bad at Chelsea at the moment. What would, if you were a manager, Tim, at this point in the time, would you come in and want to manage Chelsea Football Club and have a stain against your name wherever we finish?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the Chelsea job is a free hit for anyone, because there's not many managers who stay in the long term here, and they seem to get jobs elsewhere. So, in a sense, if you fail at Chelsea, it's not the end of your career. However, saying that, I do think that the reason why these talks are so delayed is maybe because he wants to iron out a few things and make sure certain conditions are met. Like we saw earlier, a report came out saying that he wanted to have assurance that the owners were going to be in the dressing room. So maybe small details like that are why negotiations maybe have taken so long. And obviously on the board side, they're maybe looking at things like developing young players. Is he going to give assurances to give players like Mudryk the chance? How is he going to develop players from the academy to the first team? How is he going to handle Mason Mount's contract talks and, persuading players who are seen as Chelsea's future to stay here in the long term?
Yeah.
And, philosophy and everything that goes on behind the scenes. So, as I said, it's probably just one of those formal things that will take time, but maybe by the end of the week, hopefully he's announced.
Yeah, I think it could potentially be the fact that he's not using an agent as well, which is so rare in modern football. He's, negotiating these things for himself, important things. I think if you've got an agent, you can say, this is what I want, this is what I want, and you can go do it for me. And I think the agent's probably got the awareness, the self-awareness, working with other clients to, kind of get the things that they need, or the sacrifices that they, the compromises that they need to make.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I have to agree. I don't agree with Charlie. I think it's nothing to do with money. Yes, there might be something else, but I'm fairly certain that he'll be announced. I think it's just. I wanted him to be announced before the Brentford game, to be honest, because I think if you've got Pochettino in the stands, watching these players that don't know if they've got a future at the club, don't know if they're going to play any minutes under their new manager, don't know if they are even part of the future manager's plan or whatever. Like, there's an incentive there. Like, the players don't really have anything to play for. We're mathematically, in the realms of being relegated, but whether it's likely or not, no. Because if you look at other clubs around us, people don't expect Palace to be relegated now. Bournemouth don't expect Palace to be Bournemouth don't expect to be relegated now. I think personally, he's just going to come into the same issues that Lampard came to. A bloated squad. There's nowhere to, 2 dressing rooms is stupid. The fact that they can't get everybody in a dressing room is ridiculous, unless Pochettino decides when he comes in and say, right, sacking these people off, they're not being in the squad at all, just don't bother coming in. But then you have that knock-on effect as well in terms of like transfer value, and it all has that kind of weird. Sorry, Charlie, but there was that kind of weird kind of what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Can I just say something on this, right? How long has it been since Potter got sacked? A month?
After when did we go watch Wolves? Yeah, it was about 3 weeks,
about a month.
3.5 weeks.
I'll say about a month, right? So these clowns that we've got in charge of the club, they've managed to go through all these different people. Nagelsmann, they put him off. They put Enrique off, and then Nagelsmann's going to Tottenham, and Enrique is just floating around. And Pochettino, I'm not being funny. If it was me being offered that job, and this isn't the sort of job you get down the local job centre. This is a job, right? It's a bespoke job. It's a specific job, and you've had 2 of your sort of. There's probably 20 people in the world who could do this job. Let's say, for example, 20 people. Let's say who Mourinho, 20 people, and 2 of them have just walked off. I mean, he must be getting cold feet. I've said it all along. And this is what's going on. I'm certain of it.
I don't think it's cold feet in the slightest. I really don't.
So why doesn't he sign?
What's to say he hasn't signed already? It just hasn't been announced.
Why wouldn't you? What's the secret then?
I mean, it's like one of the things here. There's a comment here by Stimp360. I'll just bring this up here, Charlie. I don't know if you agree. So, do the owners even want him to take charge before the end of the season? If he's going to be announced to take over at the end of the season, from both perspectives, there's no reason to rush.
Well,
there isn't.
Okay, Stim, thanks very much for the comment. I agree with that, but at the same time, they're booing the players at half time. They're booing. There's a toxic atmosphere within that stadium. If they could get that over the line, then it might just give people a bit of fresh air. That's the reason that I would do it.
I don't know if you saw. I don't think you saw the video going around of. I can't remember his name. Is it El Ghazi? Something like, I just constantly refer to it as Bowley, but the other Chelsea owner. He was at a game recently, and a player was asking when you bringing in. Fan was asking when you bringing in Pochettino, and he just winked at him. So I'm fairly certain it's a done deal. Like, it's purely just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I don't see it. Like Kaz here as well. Chelsea need a good manager that can discipline and gel the team together. Absolutely. I mean, Tim, do you think Pochettino is the right person that's going to gel the team together? Like, who else? Say, for example, let's just throw this into the hat. Say, for example, Charlie is right. He's spot on. Pochettino's got cold feet. It's not going to happen. It ends. He doesn't sign. Who else do you go for at this point? You can't go back with your hat in your hands and go, Mr. Enrique, Mr. Nagelsmann. What do you do?
Well, you certainly don't hire Frank Lampard. I think permanent. I don't think that's the answer. Unfortunately, I love the guy. He's probably my favorite ever football player, but he's just not cut out to be Chelsea manager. I think. In terms of where do you go, you probably do everything you can to get Hansi Flick out of that Germany job. Otherwise, where do you turn to? Like, I don't know. Enrique, would he want the job now? Again, like you said, not quite sure. So, the last names in the hat are really Vincent Kompany and a guy from Italy. I'm not quite sure who he is. So, unfortunately,
is it the Spalletti from Napoli?
Yeah. Haven't really looked into his history or background in terms of like what he's won and what he hasn't achieved. So I'm not quite sure on him again. But would you want Vincent Kompany as Chelsea manager? I'm not quite sure. Don't know if you.
I think Vincent Kompany is just, whilst he's done wonderful things with Anderlecht and Burnley, the problem is he's taken over Chelsea as well, and it echoes Potter. It echoes a Potter signing. It's a manager that is, in the grand scheme of things, inexperienced, albeit a legend of the game. I'm not going to lie, Kompany's one of the best centre backs the Premier League's ever seen. Problem was he just couldn't stay fit. I don't think he's the right person. I think somebody with a bit more of an experience in head, like Pochettino or Jose Enrique, probably the better the managers. But who's available? There really isn't one. I mean, Charlie, you're probably the person that I'm going to bring up Niall's comment here. So surely, as Chelsea Football Club fans, you can't be happy and as accepting as you are having probably the second best Tottenham manager in recent history coming into your dugget. It's usually Tottenham having your cast-offs. Famously, Villas-Boas has gone through to Tottenham, Mourinho. All these managers, Conte as well, just going that way. How does it feel having a manager going in the opposite direction from Tottenham via PSG to Chelsea?
Well, I mean, I think it's a job, isn't it? Where you just get chucked around. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it's let's put it this way, right? You never go into football management thinking you're going to get a pension. I've always said that. You're basically in there for 2 years maximum, and you make an effect. And basically, it's a bit like living. You know that eventually you'll die, and it's the same with football management. Eventually you'll get sacked. It's basically the same thing, and that's kind of the way it is. But I've just got a funny feeling he won't sign on the dotted line. I really do, and I think we're going to be left with. I don't even know. I mean, I was hearing rumours that Jesse Marsh apparently
there were rumours, but it's very.
I thought April Fool's Day was last week, but it was, you know what I'm trying to say.
Burnley and Clearlake have done a lot of terrible things. They made a lot of terrible decisions in the last season. I really can't see them making the decision for Jesse Marsh to be appointed as Chelsea manager, because that to me is a ginormous step back for Chelsea and a massive step for Jesse Marsh. It's rumours, but again, it's. I don't think they come with any merit. Let's face it. Let's have a little look here now. So, one thing I wanted to talk about as well, it sounds very, very minor in the grand scheme of things, but the 3 kit deals coming to an end at the end of this season. The absolute worst logo on a Chelsea shirt I think I've ever seen. It looks like the deal is going to go with Allianz. That's the current rumor at the moment. And if you don't know if any of you seen the mock-ups of some of the kits, I mean, Charlie, I know you don't really care about kits. This is probably more for me and Tem and anybody else that gives an interesting kits here. But it looks quite clean. It looks so much better than the 3 logo. The 3 logo just looks absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I think it looks quite clean, to be honest. It's not that I really think that we've had many bad kits lately. I think.
Oh, we have had some stinkers. The one where we won the Champions League in is absolutely disgusting.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I hate it. It's the worst. I hate that kit with a passion. It is vile. The goal kit from this season is chef's kiss, but that kit that we won the Champions League with is absolutely vile. It's the worst.
Yeah,
you like it?
I think it's okay. I think the worst kit is actually the one where Lampard just came back and we had like parts of the bridge as part of the kit. If you remember it.
I don't even remember it.
It was I think it was the last Yokohama Tires top we had actually. We had like parts of the bridge as part of the home kit. It looks awful. You know where Mason Mount and James just came in? If you just
when
quickly
they
type it on
debuted.
Google. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'll have a look. Talk amongst yourselves, guys. I know I'm supposed to be leading the podcast, but I need to have a
yeah.
look.
But I think apart from that, maybe Nike might give us a new type of kit, because I think they do PSG's kits very well. I don't think they really do Chelsea's quite well.
Oh, they're just Chelsea's kit's usually really awful. Oh yeah, I can see the kit here now. Is it the 2019, 2021?
Yeah, that's the one.
The red at the back. Oh yeah, that is gross.
Yeah.
Now the one we won the Champions League in is worse than that
Really?
one.
You think so?
100%. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we're boring Charlie. He just anyway, we digress on that discussion there. Bring up a comment here. Ethereal UK. Poch is the man who will bring the best out of the players they already have for sure. The squad is perfect for him to assemble together.
Is he right?
Yeah, I think he is right. I have to agree. Ethereal UK, whoever you are. I think he's the best of a bunch that we have available to us. It's just getting the players out. I think we've said this week on this podcast that we have far too many players, and I think that's part of the reason why it's been delayed. They're announcing that because he's just going to go into that position. And again, one thing to consider as well, look at the fixtures that we have until the end of the season. We play all of the top four in the last 6 games. Say, for example, you do bring Pochettino in now and he loses all those games against the top 6, and then he kind of gets maybe 2 points against the other 2 clubs, Bournemouth and
Nottingham Forest at home.
Nottingham Forest at home. Say he picks up 2 points across those. That's not exactly an illustrious start that's going to get him off on the right foot, is it?
No, but at the same time, I still think they need to announce it. It's a bit like last season, that Ten Hag geezer that runs Man United these days.
Ten Hag geezer.
No, but it sounds stupid. But they knew about this time last year. They knew that he had a job at the time as well.
Yeah, it was with Ajax.
Pochettino's, he's unemployed, so they could give him. It doesn't really matter, does it? That makes sense.
I don't think he's unemployed. I think he's under contract already, mate.
Well, so if you think so, go and tell Bowley that. But you know what I'm trying to say is there's no reason to not announce him. It just doesn't make any sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I have to agree. Like, if he signed the contract, I'd very much like him to be announced before the Arsenal game, or before the game that we have. Is it Bournemouth after Arsenal?
Bournemouth on Saturday, Arsenal tomorrow. Yeah.
Even if he's in the crowd, is it an away game for Bournemouth?
Yeah.
We're away.
I think at the very least, it would be good to have him at Stamford Bridge. Within the next couple of games, albeit having it there. I think the owners would rather put. I mean, this is not me saying that Bowley's clever, because I really, really don't agree. But I think the owners would rather have the stigma of having a very shitty end to the season lay with Frank Lampard than they do with their new, the saviour as it be for Pochettino. I really, really do think that. I mean, we've digressed. We talked about Pochettino far too much. Let's have a look. Other things going on, so other Chelsea news going in through. So, there was rumours during the week, I don't know if you guys saw it as well, players being unhappy with Bowley and Clear Lakes Capital's long-term deals. Chelsea famously signed players on for 8-9 year deals, all already extended the deal of, is it Fernandez by another year? So he's at the club for the next however long, I think the next decade of my life. I'll see him in Chelsea blue, unless somebody comes in and put a stupid offer in for him. I mean, you can kind of understand why they'd be a bit annoyed, but at the same time, I don't understand it. You got that long-term income. If it was me, if you were in their shoes, Tim, and you're, on the fringe player at the moment, you have to put up with this rubbish season. You're going to play eventually. Surely you can't be that pissed off, really, because what's the worst going to happen? They pay you off for the end of the deal.
I think it's more about ambition and, direction. If you bring up Ethereal's UK's comment, I think it kind of coincides with this. If you have someone, manager and players who are loyal to the owner, it can work together and sort of they create a winning sort of formula. Yeah, I think right now with what we've seen this season, they just hire and fire and don't really know what they're doing. So the players themselves feel like they're cheated in the sense of what was presented to them in the early stages of recruitment. when the players signed for the club, they obviously the owners must have pitched them a plan of saying, in 5 years we aim to win the Premier League 3 times, compete for the Champions League every season, and finish second, first, whatever, and compete for all honours on all fronts. And right now it looks like we can't even beat teams like Brentford at home, so they're kind of as lost as.
I wouldn't even say Brentford is a diss, really. To be honest, I think it's worse when we can't even beat teams like Southampton at home. To be completely honest, it is like I know when you look back at the season so far, boys. I can't believe just how bad it's gotten so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever just sit there and just think, like, Charlie, do you ever just sit and you ever think back to April last year when we're just about to squeeze into the top 4? Could you ever envisage at this point that, the new deal, the new owners coming through, we'd regress so badly? Like, I genuinely cannot see when the next win is going to come from. I can't look at the Forest game at home and think guarantee 3 points. I think, no, Brennan Johnson's going to smash in 2 goals.
I agree, and the thing is as well, the reason they're so upset about these long contracts is because of how bad we are. It's like getting a prison sentence that's twice as long as you expect the judge to give you. That's basically what it is. They thought they got sold the dream. They got sold this incredible dream. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And when they get there, there's just nothing, and it's just a wasteland, and that's the problem. And I think this is going to take a long time to sort out. That's my opinion. The mess that these guys have caused in this club, I think it's going to take them a long time to sort out in terms of these contracts, money, FFP, and obviously they're going to want to try and. They're going to want to try and make a buck themselves, essentially. So it's all of this stuff combined. It's really, really. I was saying to you guys the other day, I'm honestly thinking about starting writing a book already, because you can see this being a top seller. Of how not to run a football club. It strikes me like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but here we go.
I don't think there's a single Chelsea fan that's alive right now that disagrees with you. I don't think there's anybody that's saying, do you know what, Bowley, at least he's trying his best. Do you remember, like, in COVID when Boris Johnson was in power, people were like, oh, look at him, at least he's trying his best. I get that vibe. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's saying that.
You see it, the only time you ever see him is walking out of restaurants, probably with some agents, half cut, and telling Sky Sports how we're going to beat Real Madrid 3-0. I mean, it's just silly, It's it's weird. It's bizarre behaviour. That's all I can say.
I truly believe that once he announces, I'm not going to say appoints, because I'm fairly certain he has been appointed, but once Pochettino has announced a director of football or a technical advisor, a Marina or a Petr Cech, somebody that's got a background in football, that has run clubs at different areas, is going to be appointed, and he's going to be the person that's like the CEO, the COO, the operating officer, the person that does the day-to-day. Because it's like me going in and trying to run your business, Charlie. Like, we won't say the business you're in, but it's like me trying to go into your business where I know absolutely nothing about it, and me directing the shots and just flying by flying by my pants. Do you know what I mean?
Vice versa.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Like, I can do what you do, and I can do what Tem does, and that's the way it is. But it's so juvenile. It's just juvenile. What this guy is doing. It's silly. Yeah.
I think a key thing that Stint mentions here is, in my opinion, the long contracts are all about maintaining the market value of the players, which I have to agree. I think the business plan long term is to buy young on long contracts and sell in their mid to late 20s.
Correct.
I kind of get it, but I also rather we didn't sell them. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather they're players that want to play here for the long term and not sell the players on, unless we're going to get rid of them to Real Madrid for 100 million, and then he gets a market value of 5 million. Thank you very much for all your time, Eden Hazard. But I can't see. I just think I'd like the players to stay. I appreciate that they're coming from a financial fair play. And initially, I was one of those people that was like, no, it's really smart. Like they're spreading the payments across like a certain point, so they can't break FFP, yada yada yada. And here we are, further down the line in this season, where we've got to try and ship players off by June 30th, so we don't break FFP. The window opens at the start of June, but what clubs are really doing their business? It then becomes a buyer's market, not a seller's market. In Chelsea's opinion, really, is it, Tim?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, and that's kind of part of the problem of where is the actual club going? Do they want to win? Do they want to become a Dortmund? Do you know, like when you sign these players on long contracts, usually a player stays at a club maximum these days 4 or 5 years. You know, they've won everything and they move on. So by keeping these players on long contracts, are you looking to sort of just get value for them and sell them on for X amount? And, you know, it sort of doesn't incentivize the fact that you're there to win. It more says, we're here to build you up. We'll get you to a certain level and sell you on, sort of like what Arsenal did. You know, they used to sell to their rivals and help other teams win the leagues and whatnot. And Dortmund, you see, they're like a feeder club to Bayern Munich and everyone else. So,
yeah,
you know,
and we've kind of not really been a feeder club. We kind of, with the bigger players like Eden Hazard, I guess we kind of have for Madrid, I guess, in a really weird roundabout way, like players like Courtois. But we've kind of not been. We've kind of had like that spine of the team that we've spoken about so often. You know, the Drogba, Lampard, Terry, Cech. We've had that spine. We have variations of it in like different players combining with people in that lineup. You kind of want to see elements. I mean, in my opinion, I want to see a spine and elements of players, consistent players that are Chelsea, and then players being brought in to support them, and they're the ones that come and go. But now it's looking like we're not even going to have that. I mean, we're looking at players like Mount leaving in the summer. It's kind of like I can't see an identity anymore. Like, what is our identity? Like, are we the new Dortmund? Are we going to be challenging for the Premier League in the next 5 years? Do they want to be challenging for the Premier League, or are they just consistently happy to just get top four or try and get a top four every season, Charlie?
Well, the problem that they've got, and I've said it to you again, is these long contracts. They've signed these players on long contracts who aren't very good, and that's the biggest problem. They've got these. They've put that Mudryk on a 7-year contract. They've overspent for him 90 quid. Well, hang on a second. 90 million pounds. They've risked on him, right?
Yeah.
And let's say that he's rubbish. Let's say that he's no good, right?
Yeah.
We're stuck with him for 7 years. That's the problem. You can put these players on 7-year contracts by all means, but when they're young, you know, like go and put me on it. Oh, well, I'm not young, but you know what I'm trying to say. Go and put a young lad on this on those sort of contracts.
Like Mudryk.
He's not. He's
young.
Pay 90 million quid for him then.
I agree.
I agree with you. Don't pay that amount of money for someone. Yes, by all means, pay 10 million quid for that Brazilian geezer we've got. He's waiting for a visa, something like that. That's fine. That Santos guy. But the thing is, go Mudryk and all this sort of stuff. No, sorry, rubbish.
To be fair, I think one of the things we have noticed, yes, he has over-invested in certain players. Like, you know, Mudryk, I think, is overspent. I think Enzo, I think whilst he's still young, he's come to the squad. He's kind of played every game. You know, he's not looking massively out of place. Like he's somewhat the start of his Chelsea career. But I think in other areas, and I think I might shed some, like you mentioned it just then, Charlie. It's like other areas, like players like Andre Santos that has come in, apparently lit it up at the Under-20 World Cup, like was the top scorer in that. A centre midfielder as well, so an area that eventually we do need to, you know, replace because we do have Asian centre midfielders. So I will give some sort of credit to. It pains me to say it to Clear Lake Capital in that scenario. But then there's other players that are in the team now that haven't been given these. They've been given long-term deals, but they don't have that massive price tag of 90 million, like the Nonani Maduaka and Carney Chukwuemeka. Like, why aren't these players, especially when you've got 6 games to the end of the season, we're not playing for anything. We know they're going to be there next season. Why aren't these players playing? I don't understand that. I really have no comprehension as to why that is.
I would say I agree. I don't understand why he's not even on the bench because I don't think he's been on the bench for the last 2, 3 games.
No.
Um, yeah, exactly. And if you bring up Faizan's comment as well,
Yeah.
in
Which
terms
one?
of the long-term contracts,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, if these players aren't going to play, how many of these are going to be working in 5 years' time? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
they'll be either like Ruben Loftus-Cheek on high wages where we can't sell them on, or Callum Hudson-Odoi constantly out on loan because, again, there's no space for them in the team. They don't get the
Yeah.
opportunity. So it's kind of a big problem of we really need to get players out this summer, especially the ones we don't see going forward, and actually give young players a chance this season to actually play. Don't know if you
Yeah.
agree, Charlie.
Well, I mean, the problem that we're going to have, and I've said it all along, is did you see that interview recently with Ivy Mikel
Yeah,
about leaders in the team, this sort of thing?
Yeah.
We're selling all the leaders. We're just selling them all, right? All the academy boys, we're selling them, and we're bringing in basically a load of people who need to be trained. I mean, it's just it doesn't make any sense. Thiago Silva's probably the last one left who I would consider a leader,
Yeah.
and he'll be
Even
retiring
then,
next year.
I
So
think one
it's
of the things that was said is like Thiago Silva is considered a leader, but he's not the stereotypical, like the Jordan Henderson shouty leader. He's more like
no.
the quiet kind of statesman, I guess. It's probably the closest thing I can kind of say to it. Dale with a good comment about Pochettino. He mentioned that Pochettino's record against the top six is not particularly good. I mean, whilst he mentioned it before I brought it up, I did have a look as well. He's played the other top five teams 53 times, won 15, drawn 15, lost 23. It's very very average to say the least. But maybe I'd like to say he's probably got a better depth of players to work with this time round. Could you agree with that, Charlie? Do you think that's different?
You
Because
can't get a deeper depth than we've got at the moment. Jesus, I mean, we could literally fill a
swimming pool. I don't know.
yeah. Well, we
a
could
swimming pool.
we could fill a
We got
well with the amount of players we've got at the moment. I mean, it's like that. But the point is, I agree with that, Dale. And the thing is as well, what people don't realise is at Southampton, there's a lot of players that he worked with, such as Ward-Prowse,
Yeah.
Klein, Mane,
Yeah.
Lallana.
Yeah.
And they've turned into real players, if you know what I mean. And I think Ward-Prowse, I think they will go under this season, Southampton, and if they do,
go under, make it sound like they're going to just
you know what I
cease
mean.
to exist.
But you know what I'm trying to say. But I think that he'll be up for grabs definitely, and he probably scores more goals from his from set plays than we do in open play. And the other thing is as well, you've got that Pickford from Everton. I think he's worth grabbing. I really do. There's a few players. Why? I don't think I could sell you a goalkeeper, even if I Schmeichel in my pocket, Tem. Tell me.
Right. Tem, go on. We got to discuss it eventually. We've got to discuss areas of improvement in the squad. Tem, you take over for the next 2 minutes while I quickly one and pee, because I'm currently drinking about 4 litres of water a day. Just talk me through, and then fill me in very, very briefly about Charlie suggesting a goalkeeper like Jordan Pickford, but I know you're not a fan because there are similarities to a current Chelsea keeper. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah. I think you've seen Kepa enough times, Charlie. He's just not good enough, despite what people say of, this shot looks unsavable, that shot looks unsavable. I actually think Pickford is a good keeper. He just has that Kepa, that moment where you think, how did you not save that sort of thing? In terms of his distribution, he's actually very good at kicking the ball. Haven't seen him playing out too many times because of the teams he plays for, but I think maybe even looking at Emi Martinez, if he would leave Aston Villa, would be a good short-term option. because we do have a good young player, Slalina, that we invested some money into. So I don't know, but I think goalkeeper's definitely one. Midfield's definitely another one, and striker, we all spoke about. We definitely need a striker. And in terms of what Dale said about Pochettino, his record, I wouldn't take too much of that into face value, because at the end of the day, it is Tottenham. There's only so far any manager can take them. I think you look at Pochettino, you judge Pochettino on his record at Chelsea, not somewhere else.
Yeah.
We can only go off of what we know. As I can't exactly say Thomas Tuchel was the greatest manager, one of the best managers in the world pre-Chelsea. I think he made his name here. So we can't always judge a manager's past to be their future. Mourinho was, world class at one point, but you can't say he walks into Real Madrid and wins them 3 league titles in a row now. I don't think that would happen. Or he walks into Liverpool now and takes over from Klopp and wins 5 Champions Leagues in a row. There is some context to the situation. And Ethereal bought Fraser Foster. I definitely wouldn't take him as a short-term option.
No, I think
if you saw some of the goals he conceded on Sunday, yeah, definitely not.
I think some of the goalkeepers that were being alluded to there, Tem, I missed it. Sorry, I was peeing very, very quickly, as quick as I've ever done in my entire life. But I think some of the keepers we've been linked to is kind of like Manyan from AC Milan, Inter Milan's Andre Onana, Diogo Costa from Porto as well. I think what's the key thing that you need from a goalkeeper going forward? What do you want to see at Chelsea? Do you want to see somebody that's 6'7", commanding presence like Charlie? What do you want to see from a goalkeeper that's going to come in? Because we haven't had a good one since Courtois.
Well, you tell me, but I was saying this to you the other day. We miss shouters in that team. We missed, and that's why I said Pickford, because that guy, despite his shortcomings, he can give it, And I love watching him playing for England. I think he really cares. What do you reckon, Tom? I mean, there's not many of them out there, and they're hard to find, these goalkeepers. Well, just in general, these goalkeepers, I find them quite hard to find.
I would love Edward Mendy to develop Jordan Pickford's mentality. That's what I would love personally, and then have the kicking ability of Edison. Do you know what I mean? That we're not going to find that. I think Jordan Pickford, is too similar to what we have currently at the moment. I genuinely do. He's a shouter, yeah, but I think he is. I think goalkeeper is one of those things that we can kind of look elsewhere. I think maybe even another team in the division like that we could potentially look at. It's like, Robert Sanchez from Brighton. Again, it's best going across to Brighton, or David Raya from Brentford. These are other clubs that we can kind of go to. But another player that we were rumoured was the Dortmund keeper, Kobel, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He played against us, and I thought he was pretty decent against us. Like, that was, remember when we scored goals and we attacked? Do you remember that time? Like,
No.
he was, of course you don't. He had a fairly torrid time after the illustrious Chelsea attack, and it would be potentially a good sign to go in. So we got the goalkeeper area, but the one thing I want to say where we need to really focus up on, here's one that I'm going to put up a bit out of left field, but corners this season for us. I think I've said so many times, every game's like, why the hell can we not beat the first man? The amount of corners, we have so many different people taking the corners. Sterling, Chilwell, James, majority of players, they can't beat the first man every single time. We can't even get it to, the Fofanas and the Silva. Like, if I'm a defender and I'm going up there to try and head the ball and it's not even going to beat the first man, I'm going to be pissed off because I know I've got to sprint back 60 metres. Because they're on the counter attack already. What's the point sending up? The player that I think we should go for, and it adds depth in an area that we need. And if we're going to lose Mount, we're going to lose a homegrown player. I think we should potentially go for James Ward-Prowse. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, Tem. I don't know if he's one of the players that you think he's better suited to Chelsea. He's previously worked with Pochettino. Could he work?
Who? Sorry, could you just mention that name?
James Ward-Prowse.
Sorry, I was just typing a response to Dale. James Ward-Prowse, I don't think he would be the ideal man I would want in midfield.
Not
I
even
think
for not even for a depth perspective. Just somebody to if we're going to lose Mount and we're potentially going to lose Kovacic, even though he's just said he was happy a week ago. Classic kind of media spin on that one. Like, is that depth going to be needed?
Well, it depends on the English quota again, and I don't know how many years are left on his contract. I'm not quite sure what Southampton have
I
offered.
think it's irrelevant at this point because I think he's probably got a deal with Southampton. Like, if I go down, then I'm off.
It's sort of like a gentleman's agreement. Maybe as a depth option, but would he accept that? Maybe there might be better suitors out there for him, playing some sort of Europe. I imagine someone like Aston Villa will probably look at him if they get into Europe. Maybe a Brighton. Again, a ethereal McAllister. I think it would cost upwards of 50 million. So
yeah,
I don't think we really need to.
In the comments, please feel free. Like Dale, like I see you watching, like Ethereal, Stimp. Just please send any players you think would be a good fit, and just put like why you think it is, and we'll discuss that. I think it's we've got our own kind of personal opinions who we think will work. I think one player that I'd be quite useful to think would be fantastic is we need a striker. We need someone to bring in, but I think we've kind of forgotten that Armando Broja has been injured. Quite a bad injury. I know, Charlie, you're shaking your head there, but he is a player that he would have been playing at this point. I'm fairly certain he would have if he wouldn't have been injured.
No, he would have got that because game. We don't.
He would have.
I think he would have. No, I don't think so. Because the thing is, that's been the biggest problem with Chelsea this season is that we've got strikers, we just don't play them. So it'll be the same thing with Broja. We've got that Fofana geezer. Where's he gone? I thought he was quite good whenever I've seen him.
He was good when he came on, but I think he's a player that's playing mostly, I believe, with the under-21s at the moment in the development squad.
I thought he was quite good. I thought he was good.
Yeah, I think it was good, but I don't understand it. We don't know the be and end all. They might think that he might not have the right attitude just yet. There's too many different variables as to what it was. But when he came in, he wasn't exactly scoring goals. So I think that's probably one of the things. I think one of the key things is formation. So Stimp 360 depends on the formation the new manager wants to play. You still have a lot of midfielders on the books, and does Kante still stay? I think Kante is going to stay. I think that's my personal opinion. I think his contract will be extended by a couple of years at least. Probably on a reduced salary, I would hope anyway, to kind of help with FFP. But the common thing, I was reading something in the Athletic when I was at the gym earlier today, is formations. We've long had this 3-4-3 formation. It's fluid. In defence we're a 5-3-2 or 5-3. Whatever, and then we generally attack with wing play, but the formation that Pochettino favours is a 4-2-3-1, kind of a throwback to the Chelsea team of like 18 years ago. Is that going to suit players like Chilwell and James having to adjust their positions, or like what do we see? Who could realistically, who in this team is going to fulfill that kind of area for us, not even really having wingers anymore?
Yeah, so I think it would have to be sort of in game where maybe one of your defensive midfield partners drops in to make a 3, sort of like Lavia does at Southampton. I think he's a great player. We would, when he played against us, he ran through that midfield like I've never seen before this season.
Yeah,
I think, with the 4-2-3-1, it seems a bit of an outdated system in my eyes. I don't think many teams play with a 10 now. The 10 tends to be, a number 8 now, where it's, they might operate in sort of a 10 position, but it's usually inside spaces, like an inside forward. Yeah. So you see Odegaard at Arsenal, he's a perfect example. Sometimes he drops in at 8, he could advance into number 10 position, a bit of a wide midfielder sometimes, and, you're just creating space at different angles there. So it depends who is actually going to play there. We don't know if Nkunku's definitely going to be the number 10. It could be Felix if he stays, because I don't think we've even discussed the fact that he might actually be loaned again for another year.
Really? Where have you heard that?
Yeah. So
back to Leipzig?
No, Felix.
No, back to Madrid.
Oh, Felix. Sorry. Oh, yes, that's another player. I'm really not. I've kind of, my spark for him has kind of died a little bit in recent weeks. I just think he's not what we need. I think we need to. If he came back in on loan, like it's another loan. But I think I saw rumours it's going to be a loan fee of like £18 million plus his wages for a player that's not even signed by us. Yes, it's a little bit risky, but it's still £18 million for a player that's not your own. I want to try and have a look at some of these comments here. So Martinez from Inter's who you need. I'm inclined to disagree. Tem, you just went, yep. I'm going to disagree with that one. I think Martinez isn't as prolific as what we need.
Yes,
I think
I'll agree with that.
That's an issue.
Also, a caveat to the fact that I don't think he would ever leave Inter too. I think he loves Inter, and so that's really unrealistic.
Yeah. And I think a key one as well is, I think this is my favourite, is Ivan Toney. But the problem we have with Ivan Toney is we don't know how long he's going to be banned for, because he will be banned. And it's kind of strange that they haven't actually come to a conclusion like what his ban's going to be, because I think it puts Brentford in a kind of weird position. It's like, no, we're going to have to bring somebody in to kind of fill the gap when he's not there. But I think Ivan Toney is the perfect player for Chelsea to sign. I think he'd be absolutely fantastic. Another option we haven't discussed, and I'll throw this one across to you, Charlie, is we have a buyback clause on a Cobham graduate. You know, when he came into the team under Frank Lampard in his first season, he scored 15 goals. You know, he kind of hit the ground running in his first season, but then he kind of lost favour under Tuchel. If you had that option, would you like to see Tammy back at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, I mean, the other one one in the room is Lukaku. I mean, that's the other one, isn't it? And he's due back as well this summer. And so, I mean, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because you know what are they going to do? But it's I don't think Lukaku would. I don't think that's the answer. But you just never know. That guy is very hot and cold. You know. Yeah. For a season or two, he could probably just do it, you know. I think, but we need an out and out striker who's guaranteed just 20 goals. I'm not asking for a Haaland. I'm not asking for 50 goals a season, Dixie Dean, and all this sort of stuff. It's just about just give us 20 goals, please. You know, that's all we're asking. Because I mean, here's a question for you. Could you name Chelsea's top goal scorer this season? I couldn't tell you. Havertz?
It's Havertz.
No idea. Probably Thiago Silva.
And then it's Sterling.
Yeah, and how many goals? I could probably count with one hand, and I've got 5 fingers. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I mean, it's just
We've got too many wingers and too many number 10s. It's like the comment that Stimp 360 says. You have loads of natural number 10s. I think that area is not an area we need to improve on. It's that out-and-out striker. I have to agree with you, Charlie. We need somebody who's going to hold the ball up. Charlie, you had something you said earlier in the WhatsApp group in terms of a striker you'd like to bring in, and Dale kind of mentioned it in the comments here as well. I mean, Villa paid 32 million for Ollie Watkins when he was in the Championship, so I imagine they demand more for Toney. We're going to take that aside, but you sent a message to it. Was it early today or yesterday? You went,
I said it this morning, first thing in the morning.
Do you know what we need? Ollie Watkins. You're going to have to explain it.
Well, Thomas Tuchel wants him. He's 60 million quid. He scored 11 goals in 15 games. I don't understand. Tem gets the ump about this. I don't get it. Like he's a proven goal scorer. That guy, he just scores goals.
Yeah, but no, he scored goals.
That's all we need. We're not asking for anything else. Just someone who can kick the ball in the net.
But he's also a player that likes to play off the left.
It doesn't matter.
He's not an out number 9. He's not an out number 9.
In his defense, he's actually very good at holding up the ball. I think he is a bit like, in the sense of Drogba, he could occupy defenders by himself. However, I think he's good enough technically to play for Chelsea? I'm not quite sure.
He's 27. All right, I'm going to look at his. Sorry, as you continue, I'm just going to find out his goal scoring.
He's a nice guy. That's the thing. He's a nice guy, and
we don't need nice guys. We need bastards. We need Diego Costas. I'm sorry, there's too many nice guys in this team. We need absolute wankers because, like, I absolutely cannot stand Bruno Fernandez. I think he's an absolute bellend at Man United, but Man U fans love him because he's their bastard, and we need that type of player. Like, if there's a nice guy, like I get it, all for nice guys, but no. I'm looking at Ollie Watkins' record. All right, it's not as bad as I thought it was. To be fair, I stand corrected. I'm just looking through it now. So yeah, he scored 16 in his first season in the Premier League, 11, and then 15. That's in all competitions. Sorry. So yeah, it's fairly consistent, but yeah, maybe I don't know. I really don't know. Like we invest so many players in number 9s or trying to get strikers to fix problems. It's just you just don't know. I mean, all right, let's talk about the idea. We got that Lukaku problem, 10. Is he a problem if he comes in? If Pochettino says, you know what, I'm willing to work for him for a year, is Lukaku dead in the water?
Yes.
Is it completely dead? Because when he plays and when he's on form, there's no denying it. You can hold the player, and he has potential to be a very, very good player on his day, but he's just a bastard for all the wrong reasons.
I think he's everything you want in the striker in terms of finishing. Everything else, I don't think he's quite that player. I think he doesn't work hard enough off the ball, which again, if you look at Pochettino's teams, they ran the most in the seasons they played in. So he will demand a lot of running for the players. And you saw Lukaku when he was at Chelsea, didn't look interested in pressing, didn't look interested in sometimes even getting involved in link-up play or anything like that.
No.
To be honest, the first game, if you guys remember, Arsenal away, was it? In the league?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And, he was a breath
2 goals,
of fresh air.
2-0.
Yeah. He scored he won us a penalty and scored a tap-in, I think.
Yeah. I think he basically won us a match, didn't he? 2-2.
Yeah, basically.
It was the Lukaku show.
Yeah, and then we played Villa a few weeks later. He was outstanding again, scored 2 goals that game, and you thought, we've actually got a real striker, because I was, so enamored by him. I was thinking, we're finally going to push for the league and get up there. And then, that interview came out and his form just dropped. And, you saw the other side of Lukaku. And, I just don't see how he works in a Pochettino system, to be honest. I think we'll need a presser, someone who is good at holding up the ball and also just running around. So maybe it is Kai Havertz who gets the shout next season again. Not quite sure.
I mean, he's not played particularly well for Milan, but Lukaku he does bang goals in the Premier League. He is Premier League proven. He's just, I don't think he's going to be the right team. Ethereal's making a suggestion here as well. I would get Mane if he's going from Bayern. Again, like, the problem with Mane is it is a good shout, but I don't think he's the right person to bring in now. I think he's too similar to Sterling. And I think it's an aging player who's, he does the press under he did the press under Klopp, and you can see where Liverpool have been missing Mane. They're just kind of finding their feet at the moment. But again, is that the right player to bring in? He's just an aging player. I mean, I don't know.
I think it's achievable, though. I think it's very achievable because we've got quite a good relationship with Munich these days. We seem to be doing a lot of back and front with them. Potentially Mount might be going over there, they're saying now. So, or Gallagher, there's a lot of Tuchel, obviously, there as well. You never know. I think that's actually quite a good shout, and I'd like to see him there. I think he's a really great player. Man, I really like. I think he's really good. I'm just not convinced. I think that, like, Stim 360 Zaha on a 3 is like, we don't need another winger. Unfortunately, we've got far too many wingers. And if you want to talk about players pressing, Wilfried Zaha is not that player. Yeah. He is not a player. When I saw him against when Chelsea played Palace in the semi-finals, I was at Wembley, and I spent a lot of the time watching. Oh, really? I spent a lot of time watching Zaha just getting pissed off because his teammates weren't throwing it, and he wasn't doing any pressing. He was very similar to Lukaku that day. I don't think he's the right person for that. Or let's have a look and just check back on some of my notes here. We've gone over players that have been kind of,
going over players that we can kind of potentially go through, I think one thing we're missing out on who could potentially be available fairly cheap. I say fairly cheap. He has history with Pochettino. Harry Kane.
I'd love to see it, but I can't see it.
Harry Kane,
it's a championship manager kind of dream.
It is.
If you like.
It is, but it depends where he wants to go, really. I think Harry Kane's kind of got... I think he's got free reign wherever he wants to go. We know he's going to stay in the Premier League. He's not going to go to City now. But he's probably going to leave Spurs, so where does he go? Realistically, Man United, yeah. It's between Man United and I'd say us, maybe Liverpool.
I can't see him doing that. I would be shocked if he did. I think I don't even know what Tottenham fans would think about that. I have no clue how you'd react to that.
Do you think? Would you rather he left? Like, say for example,
it doesn't bother me. I know it doesn't bother,
but like, very much, but have him on a free, that'd be fantastic. But I think Levy would sell him if he says I want to go. I think he would, because Levy wants to bring money into the club.
I think Tottenham have got a huge issue this summer because they need to decide. They can basically, they've either got to take the money and run this summer for Kane, or they keep him on for another year and next year they've really got to try and attract some players, because without him, and there's a lot of other players that they've got, they're going to be in a real mess, and they've got that stadium to pay for as well. I think
the stadium is paying for itself. I was listening to a podcast today with the Guardian Football Weekly, and it turns out all the commercial revenue around... I don't want to talk about Spurs too often. We'll quickly go bypass over this. But the commercial revenue from the stadium is actually paying for the stadium. It's not football-related activities. So it's the commercial side, the NFL partnership, everything on those sides. So they're actually paying it on ahead of schedule. So the stadium thing is not a factor in terms of football. So... Mitrovic, Athero UK. Was it you, Charlie, that suggested Mitrovic? And then Temba, you were like, no. It's just no. I mean, he lives in West London. He doesn't have to move.
Yeah. Well, a fan I saw on Twitter, a fan spoke to him and asked him if he'd like to move to Chelsea, and he agreed. And just on,
just like it was down the pub or something.
Yeah,
some random
Real Madrid.
Sounds official.
No. Obviously, it wasn't that type of an agreement, but I think if Chelsea approached him, of course he wouldn't say no. And like the previous comment that Tom made about the stadium paying for itself, it maybe indicates of what good commercial revenue could do for a redevelopment, probably for Chelsea as well.
That's a can of worms. I highly suggest to some of our new people. Well, we could revisit it, but I highly suggest if you're new to watching this week. I think there was a podcast that we did 4 or 5 weeks ago. Charlie and I got quite into a heated debate about what to do at Stamford Bridge. So I highly recommend going back and watching that. Dale mentioned Vlahovic as well. He's potentially going to be available from Juventus. It's another number 9 that we could potentially pick up, but we could be here all day talking about number 9s, and it's getting quite late here, and I've got to be up early with a 1-year-old in the morning. So let's take a look at what else on the agenda. So Tottenham, we discussed it. Arsenal tomorrow. Arsenal away. Arsenal in a bad run of form. They need to win to kind of keep their kind of Premier League hope alive. The outside chance of them trying to win the title. We haven't got a good record there very, very recently. How are we feeling going in? I mean, we say this every bloody week, but Charlie, how are you feeling going in tomorrow? Are you fully expected to be sat there watching and just getting pumped, but Saka just turning people inside out and Odegaard running the show? Like, I personally, I can't.
I think it would be typical Chelsea, wouldn't it, if we turn them over tomorrow? But I just can't. I think they need the result more than us ultimately, and that's basically the rest of the season, isn't it? You know, every single team that we're playing needs a result, and we basically we're kind of we're like a swan, aren't we? Yeah. We're just kind of we float around like that. We're kicking under the surface, but ultimately we're not that bothered, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I know, and I think I think for me personally, if I was in Lampard's shoes, I'd just play the youth. I'd play younger players that haven't played, Maduaka, Chukwuemeka, just bring them in, have them play. Like keep Fofana in because Fofana's obviously playing well at centre back. But just I don't know about you lads. Do you think it's you're probably going to frigging lose the game? Let's face it, you probably are going to lose. I just want to quickly go bring it. Athera UK's mentioned this last strike to Osimhen. If Kane goes to Man United, I think Osimhen's a good shout.
Yeah.
I think because I think it's between us and United for Osimhen. That's where it's likely to go. But just the last thing I want to touch about, we'll go back. So predictions for tomorrow. What do we think? Where do we see it? Charlie, give us a scoreline.
Realistic or?
All right. Okay. Do a scoreline with your heart, and then do one that you'd put money on. I mean, you do stupid bets anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So it's not like me saying.
I know. I'm the sort of bloke who bets on it snowing in Egypt. But no, the point is I think Arsenal will probably win 2-0. I will go for tomorrow.
Another 2-0 standard.
I think, but obviously, in my heart of hearts, and it's my wedding anniversary tomorrow.
Yep.
I hope that they do me a favour and win 1-0, and Cucurella scores.
Jesus, wow! I mean, I would love for you to put 50 quid on Cucurella to score and Chelsea to win 1-0. The odds on that would be astronomical. You could, take your missus to the loveliest birthday meal in Venice, probably for that return. Tem, where do you see the results going tomorrow?
Realistically or hoping?
Realistically, come on.
4-0.
We need to be realist. 4-0, that bad? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 4-0. I think we're either going to get pumped or it's going to be 0-0.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, we're going to win.
No, God no.
Win 0-0?
We're not going to win 0-0. There's absolutely no way that we're going to get any type of goals. Like Ethereal, I got to love you comment. Aim to spoil the party, Arsenal. I think 2-2. It's like what Dale just said. Where are the goals coming from? We scored 29 goals in the Premier League. There's no goals in us. Unless we get a penalty. That's the only way I can see us scoring, and it's so sad that it's got to that stage. I just want us to get a penalty just to kind of break that duck, not have a fluky Conor Gallagher goal going off a massive deflection with a very weird kind of delayed dive. But I can't see where the goals are going to come from. But it'll either be 0-0 or 4-0. I'm going to have to go with 10. It's going to be awful, and I'm just very glad I'm playing football and I actually can't watch the game. So it's one of those things. But chaps, it's been another fantastic hour with you. It's one of our longer ones, gone over the hour mark. I appreciate you joining me, Charlie, Tem. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you very much for watching the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Please, thank you very much to everybody who's put the comments in, made your suggestions. Really, really appreciate this. Gave us a lot of talking points to discuss. Whenever even consider some of the players that you'd put forward. Make sure you hit that like button and please subscribe. We greatly appreciate any of your help. It all helps us to kind of raise awareness into other Chelsea fans' lives. So I appreciate it. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.